Hey guys, it's Cal from Team Chainblock here, and today I'm actually here with a new kind of updated game that I've been playing lately. It's Star Wars Unlimited, and this is basically just going to be a basic guide, if anything, on how to just get yourself started and start playing. The deck I'm using is a constructed deck that I've built myself, but the guide is going to be able to teach how to play just regardless if you want to just pick up one of the standard structure decks. I know Shadows of the Galaxy is coming out very soon, so it'd be the perfect time to get into the set then. Um, but yeah, so basically this is going to be just a how to play, kind of get yourself started on how the game works. It's got a lot of similarities with a bunch of different games. Kind of takes into consideration a bunch of different games and kind of meshes their rule books together. Um, but yeah, let's get started first of all with the setup on how to play the game. Okay, so just how the setup is you start off with your base, and your base is basically your life counter for each game, and that will be obviously placed in the base zone here. Now, take into consideration that this is just a starter kit playmat, and I'm only using this for demonstration purposes, just to show off, have a visual guide on where everything's supposed to go, which will just make it more handy. The playmats that you can actually buy from Game Genic, they don't have the zones on them, which is I prefer personally because I like having the artwork there. And once you get to know where all the zones go, you won't really forget it, to be honest. But yeah, you place your base at the very top here, facing your opponent's base, and there's a myriad of different bases. I've just gone with Kestrel City because I've been using the deck base on the red insignia up the top there. But a lot of different bases have different abilities. But the ones that do have effects, you usually have only 25 health, while this one has 30. And I think I just prefer having the 30 health, to be honest with you. Um, but yeah, so this is just a standard base. That's where it goes. Next up, you're going to be picking your leader. So for my choice of leader, I have picked Sabine Wren, just simply because the deck is just a very aggro build, and I like the play style for it. So your leader will obviously go in this zone here, and they go on the horizontal side face up first. You could do something else with your leader later on, but I'll get to that one later on. So next, obviously, you're going to take your deck. You're going to place it here in the deck zone, and then you will obviously you and any other player will to decide to either dice roll, coin flip, whatever random way to determine how you'll start the game. So obviously for this purposes here, I haven't got anyone else with me, so I'll just pretend I'm going first. And how you will start off is each player will shuffle the deck, obviously. So you shuffle your deck, and then you will start off by drawing 6 cards, and that is your opening hand of 6. Um, and then after that, you have a choice. You can look at your hand, obviously here. So here, I know it's probably a lot to look at if you haven't played the game before, but just ignore all this for now. If you don't like your hand, you also can get a chance to mulligan. Um, just It's just standard as well. It's just standard mulligan. You just shuffle it back into the deck and you draw a new hand of 6. But the only issue is you have to keep the new hand. You don't obviously get multiple mulligans. That'd be busted. Um, so we'll draw our new 6 cards here. And then once we keep this hand, we can pick 2 of the cards in our hand to use as resources. Now this is where the first set of rules start coming in between loads of different games. So very similarly to Magic the Gathering or Lorcana or other things like that, you need resources to play your cards. But the difference between this and some of the other games is that you pick cards from your hand and they just automatically act as resources. So at the start, when you draw your hand of 6, both players simultaneously just pick 2 cards from their hand to use as resources. So ideally, you're going to pick ones with a lower cost, and the cost for each card is right here, this little gold emblem at the top here. Whatever number is in that, that's obviously the cost for the card. So we're also going to pick the ones with the highest cost, which would be General Dodana here and Gorilla Attack Pod. So you can just put them face down in the resources box. And then from there, that's pretty much how you set up a game of Star Wars Unlimited. So now I'll get to the round structure next. Okay, so the round structure. So you start off with the action phase, and in this action phase, you have it's a lot different to other games. It's not like a turn for turn kind of play where you pass, your opponent draws, and starts doing their plays. This is a kind of like each player will go back and forth taking an action, an action, an action until neither player has any resources left. So, like I said, let's take it as if we got to start the game here. We can start our plays and we get to play the Spec Force Soldier. And he is obviously going to cost 1 resource. So you exhaust your resource, very much like you're tapping a mana in Magic. And then you get to play him, and since it's up here, it says ground, and it's a ground unit at the top. So you place him in the ground units box, and he will be placed on his side, very much like the summon sickness, except we refer to it here as being exhausted. So he enters the playing field exhausted, and all your units will enter the playing field exhausted, unless otherwise specified on the card. But now that you've taken your action here to summon a card, pretty much your opponent just gets to do their one. They get to take an action, and any action that is taken here could be a myriad of different things. You can play a card from the hand. You can use your action to attack with a unit. You can use your action to use an action on a card in play, such as your leader here. And then you can also take the initiative, which is just this little token here. I'll explain that in a moment. Or you can just pass your action. And once your opponent takes their action, your card doesn't ready yet. It doesn't ready until the next round, if you get me. So you have your chance now to take an extra action, exhaust another resource, and you can play the second Spec Force Soldier. And since you're pretty much out of plays here, your next action after your opponent's turn would probably just hopefully take the initiative counter for yourself. And what this means is you place the initiative counter here in this little box, and once you have the initiative, you can't make any more actions for the rest of this turn or round such. And you're pretty much just like, you're just basically considered to be passing all of your turns until your opponent's finished with theirs. But in exchange for that, the initiative counter makes so you get to go first for the next turn. And then at the end of each round, we go to the regroup phase. And the regroup phase is you will draw 2 from your deck, and you will place one of your cards into the resource pile. So what you're going to do is you'll take your Fleet Lieutenant, since he has a 3 cost, he's one of the higher costing ones here, and you'll place him face down in your resource pile, and then you will ready all of your resources and exhausted ground and space units. So once these are readied, you obviously get the chance to attack with them or do whatever. But just know, putting something in your resource pile at the regroup phase doesn't take up an action. And then it'll go straight back to the next round, and you'll go back to your action phase. And in this action phase, obviously you can start paying costs or whatever. And it requires an action, obviously. You exhaust your resource, and you can compare it to, you compare the stats to another card. So say you're attacking the Bethic 2 tubes here. So your attacking ground force will have the 2 health and the 2 damage. And granted, you will be attacking this Benthic 2 tubes, so they will take the 2 damage, meaning it will be sent to the discard pile. But in exchange, this 2 tubes also has 2 damage, so it also takes 2 damage off your Spec Force Soldier. which will also send it to the discard pile, which is on this side of the deck here. But for reference as well, one of your turns can be you want to play your leader. Now your leader has the little epic action down here, and it says if you control 4 or more resources, you can deploy this leader. Obviously, that is a cost to do that. So you can exhaust 4 resources, and you can flip your leader face up, and then that is when they're used as a ground unit. As of right now, it's used as a ground unit. There could be space leaders probably brought into it later on, but as of right now, there aren't any. There's just ground leaders. Now, Sabine is considered one of the best leaders for the simple fact that even when she does attack, she gets to deal an extra damage to the enemy bases as she's attacking. And on that topic, when you are attacking, you have a choice to attack anything within the unit's area. So, for example, ground units can only attack ground units, and space units can only attack space units. But on that note, space units and ground units can both attack the base. Now, keep this in mind as well. Even if there are other ground units in your opponent's ground unit zone, you can still target to attack the base unless otherwise specified on the cards. And sometimes it actually does be worth your while to attack units instead of the base, because sometimes you could be exhausting some of your hit points for some of your different ground units, and then if you get swarmed, you just gotta get overwhelmed and you're just gonna get battered. So you do need to control your opponent's resources as well. You can't just go all out assault on the base because you're probably gonna die. It's a terrible game plan. But that's where all the thinking comes into it. But once your leader does die, it does not go to the discard pile. It does, in fact, flip itself back over again, and then it stays in its leader zone, and you can no longer use that. You can no longer use that legendary action to flip itself back over again. It's just a once per game kind of ability to do. Any epic action in the game is just a once per game to do. But once your leader dies, you don't lose by any means. You just don't get to use it again. So here in the keywords, there are multiple different keywords that you can find within the deck. I have some of them here with me, and I'll explain whatever ones I don't have with me. I'll be able to explain. So starting off, we have this one here, and the keywords are usually written here at the top in red. And basically that is an added ability to it. Most cards will say the ability on it, some don't, but it's very easy to find. Like, they do have them written down here. If you do get one of the starter decks, they have them all written down here. But Overwhelm means that if this unit does damage to an enemy unit, and that enemy unit dies, whatever damage is remaining gets dealt to damage at to the base itself. So say, for example, you have this unit here, and you're using K2SO to attack into the Alliance X-Wing. This Alliance X-Wing will die because it's only got the 3 health, and then you have 1 additional damage left, which will then deal 1 damage to the base. And damage is signified by these little tokens or counters that you have, and you'll place it on whatever units or whatever base you have, and that's how you record the damage for the turn. Also, any damage that anything sustains is not restored at the end of any turn. You just have to sit there and kind of deal with it. We have this one here, which is the Saboteur, and says it on the card here: when this unit attacks, ignore Sentinel and defeat defenders' shields. So I'll be able to explain that more on when I do get to the other styles. This keyword here, Sentinel. As we just mentioned here, it ignores Sentinel and defeats the defender's shields. Sentinel is here, and basically this means that units in this area can't attack my non-Sentinel units or your base. So basically what that means is if he is in the ground units here, they have to attack this. They can't attack your base or they can't attack your ground units, but they can. That doesn't stop their space units from attacking your space units. Because he is only a ground trooper. Now, if they had a sentinel in the space units, it does the opposite effect. It does space units can't attack the other space units or your base. They have to attack anything with sentinel. So that's pretty much what sentinel means. Pretty box standard. Next we have Restore 1. Now, Restore is just one of the abilities. When it attacks, it heals damage from my base equal to whatever the restore value is. So restore value is basically stated on the thing. If it's restore 1, typically you're only healing 1 damage from the base. Restore 2, it'll give you 2, 3, etc. 4, 4, 5, 5. Yeah, so it's just basically a healing. Next we have Grit. Grit is a very, very powerful keyword to have on a card. So if it gets any damage, for each damage on it, it gets a +1/+0, which means that your damage will increase by 1 for every 1 damage you have on this card, which is crazy because its hit points are 6. So if you have 5 on it, it does 9 damage, which is crazy. So just note that that's a very good ability. If you have a couple of cards with that on it, I don't blame you for using them. Then we have Raid. Now, we have Raid 1 or Raid 2 so far from what I've seen. And basically, Raid means that it gets a +1 or a +2 while attacking to its damage. And that is the numeral value of what you get added to it is based on whatever raid you have. If it's Raid 1, it's a +1. If it's a Raid 2, it's a +2. If they release a Raid 3, it's 3. So Raid just adds damage to your attacks as well. And then I think that, yeah, that is all the ones I have on me. But other ones we have here are also Ambush. So that means if you play a unit, it may ready and attack an enemy unit immediately. It doesn't exhaust itself on play. It can just enter, ready, and then you can attack with it. And we have Shielded, and that's basically when you play it, it gives a shield token to it, and any amount of damage dealt to the unit with a shield token on it, you can prevent the damage and defeat a shield token on it. Now, granted, you have shield tokens and experience tokens in this game, and they are both represented on the back of your bases. All the bases have some sort of token on the back of it, so it's not like you're very pressed to be able to find any of your tokens. But that's it for terms of the keywords. Now we'll get onto the different types of cards in the game. Okay, so the different types of cards in the game. To keep it basic, you have your leader, you have your base, you have your units, both ground and space units. Obviously, they go in their respective zones. And then you also have events. Now, the event cards, for anyone who's watching who plays Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I know that's all of our audience plays Yu-Gi-Oh! We've only uploaded Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos. But these are like the spell cards for this. So obviously you pay the cost, you play the event, you trigger the effect, and then after it resolves, it goes straight to the discard pile. It's like an instant. And then we also have other cards in the game. And these cards are called upgrade cards, and I'll showcase how to use them as follows. Okay, so upgrade cards. It's pretty basic. So if you have a ground unit, or sometimes it could be a space unit too, basically you can pay the resources to give it an upgrade. And basically, what you do is it's like an equip. You place your unit on top of the upgrade with the ability and attack and life modifiers actively showing. And this means that you've equipped the upgrade to your unit. Basically, what it does is obviously gives you the extra attack, extra health, and it typically gives it an ability as well. So obviously it says here, the attached unit gets Saboteur, and then when this unit attacks, ignore Sentinel and defeat the defender's shields. So you can basically, it can attack anything, and anything that has on its shields, any shield tokens it has are just gone. Now, on that note, when we have the shield tokens, if we have a card that gives it a shield token, do the exact same thing here. You put it underneath it, and that works the exact same for an experience token as well. And then you obviously get the same upgrades again. So that's pretty much all the different types of cards there are to play. So that is how to play Star Wars Unlimited in a nutshell. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing for you guys. I promise it's probably not as confusing as maybe I explained it to be. I hope I didn't explain it too confusingly for you. But yeah, here's to more Star Wars Unlimited content. Hopefully being on the channel soon, and hopefully we can get a few people onto the channel to have a couple of games. Maybe record a couple of games, and also stay tuned for more Star Wars Unlimited, Yu-Gi-Oh, and maybe even some other card game content. Catch you later, guys. Peace.